Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, dear ones.
Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Amen. We give thanks for this breath, for this moment, for this gathering, for this path. We bring our finest attention to our breath, allowing ourselves to be emptied with every exhalation and awakening into presence with every inhalation. Each breath is sacred. The breath is a sacred companion of our lives. It is our life, it is our connection with the eternal spirit. So let's enter deeply into this presence. Let the mind sink into the heart. Let the heart awaken and expand. And let's be together in silent presence, breath by breath. Now let's add the divine name of Hai. Al-Hai is the ever-living, eternal source of life. Breathing in Ya silently, exhaling Hai. Feeling that energy of life come into our hearts, and from our hearts distributed throughout our bodies to the mind, the feelings, and to every cell of the body. Ya Hai. Allah, Hai, 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 Hai. Amen. 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 So, dear friends, it's the middle of Ramadan, a little bit past the middle, actually. And this will be our last gathering during this month. I'm reminded of a saying of Prophet Muhammad, God bless him. He said, if you were to comprehend all of the blessings and gifts of this month, this mysterious month, you would wish it to continue for the whole year. Another hadith that expresses this idea in more detail. Actually, it's from Imam Ali. May he be blessed. Although, excuse me, he's actually quoting the Prophet, who said, O people, truly the month of Allah has come to you with benediction, mercy, and forgiveness. A month that is the best of months in the sight of Allah, whose days are the best of days, whose nights are the best of nights, and whose hours are the best of hours. It is a month wherein you have been invited to the banquet of God and have been made worthy of God's magnanimity. Your breaths during this month are considered glorification, and your sleep, even your sleep, is worship. Your actions in it are accepted and your supplication answered. Ameen, ameen, ameen. So, coincidentally, the theme of this month is another hadith. Everyone sets out each day and trades his soul, either emancipating it or oppressing it. I don't know if you've experienced this. I trust that you have, that this month, one of the most beautiful benefits is that it's a time for examining our own souls through conscience, through muhasaba, which is self-accounting, a time when we can take a deeper look at ourselves, our actions, our lives. And so here we're being reminded that every day of life, we go out into the world and we're either emancipating our souls or oppressing them. So when I ask myself, what emancipates the soul? And one of the first things that came to me was that diminishing our preoccupation with ourselves and becoming more aware of the needs of others, helping others, giving to others, also of having something to serve that is greater than ourselves. This needn't be an organization, a religion, a person. It may be serving your own highest aspiration and remembering what that is. So every day there's an opportunity for the soul to be emancipated. One definition of emancipation that we use in Threshold Society is freedom from the fear of loss. And the fear of loss, an exaggerated fear of loss, can dominate our lives and oppress our souls. We know that um, there are those, again, quoting from the Quran, there are those who remember God sitting, standing, and lying down, and whom neither business nor profits distract from the remembrance of God. So we know that this is an aspiration, a possibility for us. And this would lead increasingly to that state of emancipation. And then the question is, well, what oppresses our souls? There was a great teacher in the 20th century named Dr. Robert Gibson, who had an extraordinary insight, so obvious once you hear it. And I detailed some of his teachings in an essay, an article called The Science of Witnessing, which is on our website. And Dr. Gibson, who is a medical doctor, by the way, he said that the foundation of our suffering in this life is above all the illusion of thinking that we are trying to seek a life without disturbance, and that we do many, many things to achieve a life without disturbance, a very illusory goal. And he says this is a great delusion, that the whole purpose of living is to remain undisturbed. We might even approach spirituality with that in mind, thinking that, oh, if I do enough practices and really do the whole program as thoroughly as possible, it will guarantee that I will have a life that's undisturbed. But this is the foundation of a kind of inner slavery. And this assumption is, in a way, the root of our oppression of ourselves. So, Dr. Bob, as some of our friends call him, uh, says this delusion is sustained by several basic, mostly unconscious motivations. I think he listed 4 or 5, and in a chapter of a book that I'm working on, I expanded those to 7, actually. So these are the 7, in more or less in our own words. The first, to preserve our own existence at any cost, resulting in exaggerated fears and defensiveness. To preserve our own existence at any cost. This is the core of the ego. The ego serves a purpose. Its purpose is to keep us alive, to protect us. But there's also a sort of pathological development of the ego that leads to exaggerated fears and the valuing of life, that is material life in this world, above all. This is also the ideal of the materialist, hypersecular mentality of our time. The second is to gain pleasure and comfort, and to escape all pain and discomfort. To gain pleasure and comfort, and to escape all pain and discomfort. Of course, we have a right to pleasure and comfort, but to be living under the delusion that we can escape all pain and discomfort oppresses us. The third, a bit more subtle, but extremely important, to gain attention, often in unconscious ways, and to avoid being ignored or rejected, to gain attention. The fourth, to gain unconditional approval and to escape all disapproval. We can ask ourselves, what does that lead to when one of our primary goals is to gain the approval of others? How does that affect our integrity? 5, to gain a sense of importance and to escape the sense of inferiority. To gain a sense of importance and to escape the sense of inferiority. Clearly, if we were living from our souls, if we were living in remembrance, neither of these, the gaining of importance or fear of a sense of inferiority, would oppress us. And the sixth, to be loved, liked, or desired, and to avoid being abandoned. Of course, these are natural inclinations. We all would like to be loved and liked, etc. And nobody wants to be abandoned. But once again, what effect does this have deep in our souls if it leads to loss of integrity or the ignoring of conscience? And finally, to have control over other people and to escape situations we cannot control. Isn't this a source of a lot of discord in so many relationships? To have control over other people and to escape situations we cannot control. So the good doctor was saying that we can be quite blind to these unconscious motivations, despite the degree in which they dominate us. So having a list like this helps us to take a magnifying glass to ourselves and to see, well, is there something here that I've been blind to? This is not the fun work of spirituality. This is not the pleasure and joy of spirituality. This is the hard work. It's not all the work, but it's the hard work, and it's part of our task. Especially since when these motivations are driving us so unconsciously that we are really truly unaware of their effects on ourselves and others, and also of the strategies that these motivations lead to. And so there are some strategies that are listed. We can look at ourselves in this mirror. Number 1, complaining. This hasn't worked so far and merely perpetuates a state of resentment in the complainer and very likely in the one complained to. 2, playing the victim and demanding our rights. This hasn't worked so well either, especially if it entails avoidance of responsibility. 3, adopting a mask to please other people. Even if this sometimes works temporarily, it creates inner havoc through the abandonment of our own true needs. 4, trying to conform and do as one is told by authorities. This opens the door to personal and mass suggestibility and the forsaking of integrity and authenticity, trying to conform and do as one is told by authorities, rather than having an awakened heart, an awakened conscience, and following that. Number 5, blaming, shifting responsibility for our state to something external to ourselves. For instance, when something seems to go wrong and we feel irritated, angry, or bitter, we search for a reason to blame someone or something for the state we're in. And 6, possibly the most ridiculous of them all, is self-promotion, which is always a derivative of hypocrisy. And nowadays it's become practically acceptable through social media, through the creation of virtual identities. Self-praise doesn't go very far. So these are some of the primary motivations of the false self and the strategies it creates in its misguided attempts to reduce that suffering whose origin is the delusion that we can live always undisturbed. So this is the bitter medicine. This is the hard work. This is the magnifying glass we take to look at ourselves and pick it up again and again and again and ask ourselves, are any of these things true for me? But then there's so much beauty in the primary sources of our tradition, in the life of the Prophet, God bless him, and his companions, and the heirs of the Prophet, some of whom we've known in this life. And these examples inspire us, and sometimes, in a nutshell, one answer from the Prophet or from Imam Ali or from one of the saints solves 100 problems. And remedies 100 vices. So Imam Ali, may he be blessed, said the fruit of humbleness is love. The fruit of humbleness is love, and the fruit of pride is abuse. So the human being who adopts humbleness as a discipline, as a commitment, as a form of self-awareness, when humbleness doesn't come naturally, which is the case for most of us, the true humbleness, which is not based in a low self-esteem, but the true humbleness that derives from our awareness of the greatness of the divine and our reliance upon the divine. The fruit of that humbleness is love. And I love another thing that Imam Ali said, which is simple and absolutely true. Humbleness clothes you in dignity. Humbleness clothes you in dignity. And human dignity is another core value on this path, on the path of Islam, of Islamic Sufism, and indeed of all true spirituality. That the purpose of spiritual practice is to relieve us of the domination of the false self, to emancipate, to be emancipated, to fear no loss, to not fear people's opinions of ourselves, to not compromise ourselves, to not compromise our conscience, to fit in, to please authorities. And so again, Imam Ali says, humbleness is the fruit of knowledge. Yes. Beautiful Ali, as with Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him, so often said in so very few words extraordinary things which were extraordinarily true. And I return to the theme of this month, which is every day we go into the world. Every day, everyone sets out each day and trades his soul or her soul, either emancipating it or oppressing it. And also a reminder that in these few days of Ramadan that remain, this is a time when, in addition to experiencing hunger and thirst, and sometimes tiredness, this is a time, most importantly, when it's more possible than usual to examine our own souls, to reflect on our lives, past, present, and future. A time when conscience comes more alive, when our sleep is worship, when our words are glorification, and when we also feel a bond with all of humanity, the humanity that hungers, the humanity that suffers and thirsts for justice, for peace, for love. Ameen, ameen, ameen.
Yes, we are moving into the last 10 days of Ramadan soon, which is especially a time of deepening. And there is the tradition of being watchful for the night of power, for that night of intense, special intimacy with God. The night when it is said the Quran opened through the heart of Muhammad with the presence of Gabriel. And it was a time when he was deeply in retreat. And this tradition of retreat, is so much shared across traditions. This morning, some of the dear ones were visiting. Hazrat Shams has a few words for us. And just the presence of Elijah and Hidr. There's a sweet tradition that Elijah and Hidr meet to pray in Jerusalem during Ramadan. And in the journey this one has been making with beloved Mary, rediscovering something of Elijah and his turning away from this world and going into the cave on the mountain, even as Muhammad did. And listening, that deep, deep listening. And it is said that it was in the silence that he heard God speaking, that even the silence itself was God's voice. So we have this opportunity in mutual support during these days and nights as we pass through this self-examination Kabir was speaking of, and the purification of the heart, the body, the soul, on all levels, in whatever way we each may be experiencing that, to keep drawing nearer, as it said in the Quran, to bow in worship and draw near. And Hazrat Shams reminds us that everything is within us, that these other voices of the world, these pulls and pushes of different directions of Nimrod and Pharaoh are also within us. And yet also there is the presence of Asiya, that gentle one who stood for the truth within Moses. And there is Jesus. It's so beautiful, this unfolding of this year, that the Eid falls around the 13th of May, which is also the feast day of celebration of Our Lady of Fatima, when beloved Mary appeared in the town of Fatima in Portugal to children. And this beautiful resonance, that we are together in spirit. And our dear one, Matthew Wright, was reminding us this morning even that this year it happens that the celebration of the Ascension of Jesus also falls on that same day. It's celebrated 40 days after Easter. So we have this beautiful reminder of these interwoven threads. And there's just a few words from Hazrat Shams. He says, "There's no seeker among those who look for God who has not matured on the way. If the seeker is mature in his or her longing, the beloved for whom he or she is seeking hasn't yet matured in the aspect of being loved. The outcome may be uncertain. But if the beloved has come to maturity, this means that both of them have understood each other well and have merged with each other. We keep our concepts of the divine, God willing, keep opening as the heart opens. And in a moment, Shams says, this way is a very strange and secret way. The police chiefs are sitting there saying, the way isn't this way, don't go this way. But all the 6 directions are enlightened with the divine light of God. And he reminds us of the saying that there's no doubt that the lover is where the beloved is. So as we continue to draw near, even as the Prophet Muhammad said, I have not worshipped you, my Lord, as you ought to be worshipped. This abd, sense of servanthood and worship intermingled. I have not known you as you ought to be known. We can always dive deeper. There's always more polishing of the heart to happen, to allow the witnessing of the beauty of the heart of another, of the beauties of this creation, of the magnificence of what it is to be a human being. And there's a beautiful prayer in the weird that it is said was the prayer, one of the prayers of Hitter, where it said, "Oh, you whose hearing one thing does not keep you from hearing any other thing. Oh, you who know and understand all tongues, let us taste the sweetness of your forgiveness and that beauty of your pardon as we continue in this journey of return to ask God's help that that which needs to fall away may fall away, that we may see more clearly with more strength and beauty all of the beauty and strength of the beloved and how it manifests through each heart, through each life. It is said in the Quran, I have not created this except with an inner truth, that haq that is palpably present and through which we are taught in every circumstance of our lives, however that may come to us in any moment, that one who is teaching us, being with us, breath by breath, that wasi, the one who is encompassing us with love, al-wadud, and whose hand is there for us to grasp, always with us. As it is said again in the Quran, I am with you wherever you may be, whether it be difficulty or joy. So we give thanks, shukr alhamdulillah, for this path, for the beauties Mawlana has opened to us from Prophet Muhammad, through the heart of Hazrat Shams, through all the prophets and saints who have radiated light for all of us, that we might immerse in that light together, inshallah. Ya Nur, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Wadud, Ya Kareem, Subhanallah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Amen.
Amen. And the manifestation of this life and light comes unexpectedly, in the least expected places. And yesterday was Kentucky Derby Day here in Louisville. It's the greatest horse race in the world. And though the stands were far from full, it was said to be the largest sports event attended by the most people during the last year, since the pandemic, I think there was about 50,000 people. Normally there's 150,000, I think. So this one felt somewhat obliged to watch the 5 minutes, or actually the race is a couple of minutes long. And it was quite an extraordinary race, a beautiful race. And from the moment I saw the list of horses and I saw the name of Medina Spirit, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be extraordinary if Medina Spirit were to win the Kentucky Derby during Ramadan? And lo and behold, this feisty little horse, originally sold for $1,000, won the Kentucky Derby. And when they spoke to the jockey said, I felt it last night. I felt this horse, this little horse could win this race, because this horse is all heart. So, mashallah, Medina Spirit, 2021's Kentucky Derby winner. Time for zikr. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman-Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. As long as we're in this world, none of us is free of faults, mistakes, and sins. May we be forgiven, and may we be forgiving. Astaghfirullah. 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 Everything in existence is the manifestation of a single source of life and being. And we say these words, La ilaha illallah, to remind us of the oneness of being, and to remind us not to make idols of our ego's whims and desires. Bismillah, la ilaha illallah. 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 La illallah. And God answers all calls made in sincerity and truth. Bismillah, Ya Allah. Allah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alam nashrah laka sadrak wa wadana anka wizrak alladhi anqadha dhahrak wa rafa'na laka dhikrak fa inna ma'al usri yusra inna ma'al usri yusra fa idha faragta fansab وإلى ربك فارغب صدق الله العظيم.
We give thanks for the light under which we gather, for our Pir Hazrati Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, for the generations of seekers and guides that have come before us, and for all those who have been our teachers.
Amen.
And we pray for the health and well-being of everyone in this circle, our families, our children's children, future generations, our communities, and our planet.
Amen.
And we mention at this time anyone in need of prayer or healing. And may Almighty God make our intention and our awareness sound, and bring us in readiness to the center of true beginning. And may the light of this circle be received wherever it's needed.
Amen.
By the breath of Mevlana, by the secret of Shamsi Tabriz, by the nobility of Imam Ali, and with the blessings, the barakah of Prophet Muhammad, mercy to the worlds. Let us say who.